What is up, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media. Monday Night Football recap, updated Week 4 power rankings, and Thursday Night Football Dolphins Bengals preview. That and much, much more when we are back in 30 seconds.
One-on-one. Fleming flares out to the right. Caught over the middle and into. He's at the 45. Are you kidding? Oh, he's going to go. Oh, and he gets hit. The ball is out. And Philadelphia has it.
What is up, everybody? As I said in the beginning, this is Turf Talk live here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channel. If you guys are new to the channel, you know the drill. Head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Hit that follow button. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And while you're on the channel, head on over or check out the link tree in our bio. It'll take you to every social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive on tonight's show, head on over to the Facebook or, more importantly, the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, do whatever you got to do, but that's where we can pull up your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns. That's the best way to be interactive here on tonight's show. As my co-host Scotty's checking in. Check him out on Twitter @ScottyJohn. You can find me on Twitter @DylanJD98. And we have a pretty fun show for you guys tonight. It's not as jam-packed as last Thursday, when we had 2 Monday Night Football matchups to break down. But we got a better Thursday Night Football matchup, Scotty. We have an NFC East battle to break down from Monday night. And the power rankings might have a little bit more movement compared to the first throughout the first 3 weeks. So it'll be interesting to kind of debate those and break those down. But as my man Scotty's saying, guys, comment, like, share, whatever you got to do. Check out the TeePublic site. We have a new A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts Eagles hoodie, T-shirt, merch, whatever you guys want to look at there. That and much, much more on the DSM TeePublic site. Scotty, what is going on?
What's good? Just getting it all shared out to my boys, making sure everybody's tuned in to DSM Media, Turf Talk. And getting ready for this Thursday night matchup, man. I'm excited for this one. We talked a little bit last week. What was the matchup last Thursday that we
Bengals
got
into? Browns Steelers.
Yeah. We talked about how it took a turn for the worse for Thursday night football, but we're back. We're back tonight. We're back with a better matchup.
I feel like we're getting spoiled, man. I feel like by week 3 of last year, we had Jags Texans. I'm pretty sure next Thursday. I think Thursday Night Football, I don't know if it's the Amazon deal or whatever it is, but I think Thursday Night Football might be in better hands this year than it's kind of been in previous years.
You're on to something.
Yeah.
You're on to something.
I mean,
Amazon,
guys, I have not checked out the full schedule. This could take a turn for the worse in 7 days. I have no idea. But from what my memory, it feels like there's better games, better competition on week to week. And tonight, like I said, you have 2 of the most high-powered offenses with 2 good defenses going about it. Both teams a little nicked up heading into tonight, so we'll get into that later. Let's start in the NFC East. Let's start with the Giants-Cowboys review of Monday Night Football. Listen, man, Monday night heading into that game, we talked about the Sunday night matchup within the Niners and Broncos.
Yeah.
And how that was one of the, how do I say this politely? One of the uglier football games you were going to see. Monday night, the first 3 quarters at least was right on par to follow up that ugly performance from Sunday Night Football. But then the fourth quarter, the end of the third quarter, kind of took a turn. Once Saquon broke off that touchdown, that touchdown run, it kind of sparked the offense on both sides of the ball. But what are your thoughts here as the Cowboys come away and shout out? I don't know if this is your boy or not, but Hunter here, Cowboys fan, pulls out a W. 2-0 without Dak Prescott. They moved to 2-1. The Giants fall to 2-1, leaving the Eagles the only undefeated team in the division at the moment. But nonetheless, it's a big win for the Cowboys. If Dak's only out for another week or two, to be 2-0 without Dak when we thought, stick a fork in this Cowboys team with that defense. They've been impressive. And the Giants, I mean, it was, they lost by 7. It wasn't a blowout. The Giants were in the game till the end. So they weren't outmatched, but at the end of the day, again, you lost to Cooper Rush. And
Cooper Rush, man.
Dalton Schultz-less and a Michael Gallup-less offense and a beat-up offensive line. So, I said to you heading into that game, this game's going to tell you more about the Giants than it is the Cowboys, because the Cowboys are the more depleted team, the backup quarterback, all the injuries. Giants are fully healthy at home. Are they real or are they not? And I think the Giants kind of showed you their true colors. And again, the Cowboys brought an insurmountable amount of pressure on Monday night. So something I'm not really used to seeing.
Not scared of Daniel Jones throwing
not,
the ball
and that offensive line, not at all, man. But the Cowboys kind of showed you a little bit more than the Giants did on Monday night.
I agreed. And those are probably, two of the most important points I have written down here for that game was, one, the New York Giants, they are frauds. Get out of here. You're not a 2-0 team. You're not an undefeated team. The real undefeated teams are left, right? We're going to get into one of them tonight. But no, the New York Giants are frauds. They're very limited, right? They can compete. They can maybe keep games close. But when it comes to another team coming in and just doing what they're supposed to, you should beat the New York Giants, right? Like, just do what you're supposed to. And that's what you saw Cooper Rush do. He didn't do any turnovers, no interceptions, wasn't a ton of pressure on Cooper Rush. They got the running game going. And that's why that leads me to my other point, which is the Cowboys are still the Eagles' biggest competition in the NFC East. We thought maybe the Washington Commanders would be a thorn in the side. Maybe the Giants, right? Their 2-0 start. Mm-hmm. It's still the Cowboys. They have the second best defense in the NFC East. Just to make that clear, second best defense in the NFC East. And they do have Dak Prescott once he comes back. The thing for me is, like, is this like the Cooper Rush syndrome or the backup quarterback syndrome? Where they go into this game and they run the ball down the Giants' throats. They're not going to do that with Dak, and that's the problem, right?
Yeah, man, you don't want Dak and Hunter. I feel like he'll kind of agree with us, even though we're on the opposite sides of the fence as him. I feel like he's going to agree because even with Dak back, you don't want the weapons of outside of CeeDee Lamb, who has a hands problem himself. What's it, Noah Brown, and I couldn't tell you who wide receiver 3 and 4 are for the Cowboys. You don't want Dak dropping back 40, 45 times with those receivers. And I know Michael Gallup will be back in possibly next week or in 2 weeks, but nonetheless, like Mike McCarthy and that offense and Kellen Moore called a clean game for the most part. They did what they were supposed to with their backup quarterback. They let their defense kind of handle things and win the game for them. I feel like those things kind of change, and Mike McCarthy gets kind of bigger than himself, bigger than life kind of thing when he has Dak under center. And when that happens, I don't think you're going to see the same Cowboys offense kind of being ran. And on the other side of the ball, the defense, like, don't get me wrong, the defense has looked phenomenal. But if you're a Cowboys fan, I hope you realize, like, you were able to have success rushing the passer and dialing up blitz after blitz after blitz against this New York Giants offensive line against Daniel Jones. You cannot do that against a confident or opposing offense. And the Cowboys just let up 16 to the Giants?
Yeah.
While the Eagles have let up 7 and 6. So like, let's slow the roll on the best defense in the NFC, the best defense in the NFC East, because not that simple.
Mind you, this isn't. We'll see what the matchup looks like when we play the Cowboys. I'm sure you are. I'm looking forward to it. But nonetheless, you are correct in the sense of that's the New York Giants, right? What the hell did they have going on offense? Name me a receiver on the New York Giants, right? Aside from fucking Kadarius Toney and Shepard.
Is Kenny Galladay the worst? Is Kenny Galladay the worst contract you can remember?
Kenny Galladay, dude. He had a crucial drop in that game as well, by the way.
For his only target.
He doesn't even look like he cares.
He 100%
doesn't give a
like 4 days ago, he was at his locker talking to reporters about how, he wasn't getting a lot of playing time throughout the first 2 weeks and how he should be in the game and needs to be in the game. And then you saw him off and on throughout this Cowboys matchup. And like you said, the one target, it might've been a third down drop that he had. Yeah. It was brutal, dude. I don't think he wants to be there anymore. I don't think Brian Daboll has plans for him in the game plan anymore.
Yeah.
But now the Giants lose Sterling Shepard to the torn ACL at the end of the game. So
You don't
You
know.
know,
Yeah. What are you going to do?
The Giants are kind of right back down in the territory you kind of thought
Saquon's back. Saquon's back, though. He's not. I like what I saw from Saquon. That's exciting, right?
Fantastic for Saquon.
But that's it.
Not so much for the Giant fans.
That's it. Yeah. I wasn't impressed by the Giants. I will say I was impressed with Dallas's pass rush, but to your point, against
but you get my thing. Like you cannot.
Yeah.
Dude, they brought the house. Let's just say 80%. So like 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 plays, it felt like there were 7 guys on the line of scrimmage and they were showing pressure before the ball was snapped. You cannot do that against 95% of the league. Like you can do that against the Giants. You can do that
against the Bengals.
The Jets. Maybe, the Bengals with their offensive line.
Their offensive line sucks, man. It's crazy.
Phil chiming in, Giants and Cowboys battling for last place. And listen, I'm not going to get too overreactive from what the Eagles' defensive line was able to do against Washington, but you can't disregard what the Giants have been able to do without Dak. So, I don't know if that's the case. You might be right, Scotty. It might be more so the Cowboys when, Dak will probably be back within a week or two, maybe 3 max. And by that time, they'll be in the conversation for the division.
After what I saw from the Commanders when we played them, I mean, they struggled against Detroit, right? Like Aiden Hutchinson was getting home. Like they were getting home on Carson Wentz, but it got taken to a whole other level when they played the Eagles.
It was ugly, man.
They couldn't. What could they have done different? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what they could do when their offensive line is that bad. And that's what worries me as the Commanders go into this game against Dallas. Quite honestly, I would like to see the Commanders win that game, right? Keep everything even, but I don't see it happening even with Cooper Rush. I think if they just go out there with the same game plan, they should win.
Oh, 100%. Micah Parsons might have 3 sacks this game, but how we on the pregame show we were kind of sitting here talking like it wasn't even a storyline the whole week. I felt like here, like none of us were really discussing how weird it's going to be to face off against Carson Wentz and to face off against our former quarterback, and we brought that up probably an hour prior to the game. I feel like the level of competition, how many times he was hit, putting the ball on the ground, holding on to the ball, it took away from the weirdness of playing against him.
Yeah.
Like he was just another
you almost felt bad for him, man.
Yeah, like he was just another dude in our way that we felt bad for because of what the defensive line was able to do. Like if the score was 24-14 at halftime or the game was still within reach, it would have felt weird watching Carson battle against this defense. It was just so lopsided. Like that it was almost cringeworthy, right? And you just don't want Carson to get injured. Like that's what I was wanting out of that game. We disagree, but
I think he's trolling, man. He has showed love for Carson in the past. I think he's trolling.
But I really don't have a leg to stand on after last week. There is nothing I can really say.
I mean, he was holding the worst.
Ball. He's not the worst, but
that was bad.
It was a really
on all fronts.
Listen, the offensive line was bad, but I watched this, and 100%, Mrs. Scotty, I agree with you. But I mean,
my God, Dylan, you just don't even understand, man. Because
she still loves Carson.
My mom loved Nick Foles. She was on the Nick Foles train when Carson was still here, man, and she's totally switched up. It's just weird, man. If only you knew, but yeah. I would agree. He had zero protection. But
he did. But I feel like watching the Eagles' defensive line get after him. You just watched. It just magnified what people had feared and how long he holds onto the ball and his lack of pocket awareness. And it was brutal to watch. Like at halftime, I'm just sitting back, like just clicking through red zone and shit, like just. Not really no worry about Washington coming back in that game, but
seriously,
yeah.
And like Fletcher Cox, sacks him the first time. I'm like, Fletch.
Yeah.
I'm like, Fletch, and then like it happens for the 9th time, and I'm just like, all right, like end the game.
Yeah, by that time you're like,
throw the white towel.
You're like, yeah, Fletch, yeah, sure.
Ease up a little.
But with that being said, real quick update. Jalen Hurts takes home the NFC Offensive Player of the Month award. Yes. Obviously, as you guys know, I believe, what was it? The order. It went Zach McPherson week 1, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or was it A.J. Brown? Hold on. We had 3 in a row, did we not? Brandon Graham was Defensive Player of the Week
Zach
this
McPherson, Zach McPherson, week 1, special
Darius
team.
Slay, week 2.
Darius Slay,
Right,
week
Brandon
2,
Graham,
and then
week 3.
Brandon
For some
Graham.
reason, I thought A.J. Brown was thrown in the mix week 1.
Should have been.
Smith
I think
should have
Justin
been thrown in the
Jefferson
week.
got it.
Right, Devontae Smith should have been thrown in for the Offensive Player of the Week this past week. I don't know how he wasn't. Cordarrelle Patterson won the award with like 120 yards. It doesn't make sense to me. One had 170, one had 120. Both scored a touchdown. Doesn't really make sense. But with all that being said, a lot of awards being racked up for Eagles fans. But let's get into our week 4 updated power rankings. And I have not looked at yours before the show. And I remember last week, I believe we had 1 and 2 the same, and then 6 through 10 the same. So we only had to switch up 2 through 4 in a different order, but we had all the same teams. I think this week we're looking at a much different kind of order here. You have a team in, I have a team out.
Yeah.
Let's just see right off the bat. We have the Jags at 9, the Packers at 8, Ravens at 7.
Yeah.
So we're the same there, but we're kind of different everywhere else, man. So all right, I'll throw it here. You have the Bills still number 1.
Yeah.
Kind of give me your thought. And listen, I'm not disagreeing with you. Like, just because they lost to Miami does not mean that I don't think they're not better than. I don't think Miami's better than the Bills. I don't think if they meet in the playoffs in Buffalo that the Dolphins beat them per se. But I'm just kind of updating it by how things are playing out in the time. Why do you have Buffalo? Fair. Why do you have Buffalo still number 1?
Because I was still. I don't want to use the word impressed because I don't feel that that's fair to Miami. I'm not impressed by Buffalo, but I just thought if that's their basement, like if that's their worst, if that's how they are going to lose, then that's what a number 1 team would look like losing, taking up the possession of taking up time of possession,
You're right.
90% of the game. Being able to hold the Dolphins to 21 points, even with all the injuries to the secondary. That was kind of my mindset behind it. Josh Allen, yes, he made some mistakes at the end. He still racked up over 400 yards. They went out there, tried to pass the ball 63 times in that Miami weather, that stagnant, humid heat down there. And I don't think that was a good move. I think if they could go back, kind of reshape that. But I don't want to phrase that in a way that kind of discriminates or disrespects Miami. It's not like that. Miami, that's an impressive win. You take that and you move on. And that's the way I would go about it. But just looking at it from the Buffalo Bills perspective, I wouldn't lose sleep over this win. And honestly, man, seeing Josh Allen on the ground, like holding his head and like crying after a week 3 loss to the Dolphins, it was kind of weird, but it also makes me think like, man, this dude wants every single game. So like, I don't know. I was still impressed somewhat by the Bills, while at the same time,
okay, so
they should have won that game.
Sure. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But with that being said, you have the Bills at 1, which is fine. But then I guess my eyes kind of move. I have them number 2. You have Miami number 5. What's your kind of just overall thought process of having, the likes of the Chiefs and the Bucks? Like, forget the Bills, who they just beat, but the Chiefs and the Bucks you still have ahead of Miami. Why is that?
So for the Bucks, the defense, man, and the way that they were able to hold Green Bay to 14 points. Yes, they lost by 2. The offense was that bad, but they had 0 of their weapons. It's still Tom Brady, and they still took the Packers to the wire. So I didn't move much on the Bucks, quite honestly. The Kansas City Chiefs, same thing. The Colts come out. You're playing them in Indy. Looks like the Chiefs had a little bit of confusion, frustration going on the sidelines. Every dog has its day, right? And that's kind of the way I look at these 3 teams that I left in front of Miami, and even the Buffalo Bills that I left in front of Philadelphia. Is these teams are going to lose games this year, and I do get your point of view as well, because it is a week to week thing. So I will take maybe that into a little bit further consideration going forward, but it really, for me, was just about if these teams play today, who am I going to take in this game?
Mm-hmm.
I think against all of those teams below Buffalo, and then so on and so forth. Like if Miami was playing the Bucks, I'm probably going to take the Bucks as long as they have Mike Evans. Kansas City, same thing. Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to take him against the Dolphins versus Tua against the Chiefs. But I know what it sounds like, right? It sounds like I'm disrespecting the Dolphins. They're 3-0.
No, I mean, I get it. You're just anti-Tua. You're anti-Tua. It's cool.
Oh, damn. That's what I sound like.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding with you. I'm kidding with you.
I'm not. I feel you.
No, I'm kidding. My only thing is like, So you see where I had the Eagles. You bumped the Eagles up to number 2. And obviously we're clear in the idea that they're top 2, if not number 1 here on our list. My only argument about the Dolphins would be like, what, like, can you give the Eagles all this credit and bump them all the way up to number 1 or 2, but not credit Miami to the extent that the Eagles are being credited? Like, you have the Eagles ahead of the Bucs and the Chiefs, but you don't have Miami when Miami has beaten the Ravens and the Bills in back-to-back weeks. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's a fair question. It updates every week, but it's just the one thing that caught my eye. I do have the Eagles at number 1. And again, these are a fluid list. This does not mean that I definitively think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the league. It does not mean I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl at the moment. It just means they are playing better than anybody else in football at the moment. The Dolphins, I have number 2, Bills number 3. Number 4, you have them at 6. I have the LA Rams. They are 2-1. Their only loss came all the way back in week 1 against your number 1 team in the Buffalo Bills. And we talked about this on Monday night. They have not looked like the LA Rams that we kind of expected. The offense has not flashed. The defense has not flashed the way we kind of thought it has, or that it would. But they still are 2-1. They go on the road. They beat the Cardinals up 20-12, even though the score probably should have been a little bit higher and further apart than that. Who did they be? They escaped with a win against the Falcons at home in week 2, but nonetheless, they are 2-1. And I think my thing with the Rams is they're 2-1, and my projection is higher. Like, I don't think you've seen the Rams peak yet. So that's why I think the Rams can get even higher than this.
Fair. And the thing with the Rams, I didn't have the Rams move at all this week. They actually stayed right at 6 for me. They were 6 last week. The Arizona win just wasn't impressive. It's not what I want to see from the Rams. And, I think this is something we can discuss, just regarding, because it even goes further to like even the Eagles over the Dolphins for me. It's because I started with the Eagles at a higher place. So they've done nothing but increase that.
Right. And the Eagles were already top 10 when we started week 1.
And the Dolphins are still a ways down for me, I guess, as far as where I started and where I'm at now.
Sure.
But 2 impressive wins back-to-back. I'm not going to take anything away from the Dolphins. On the Rams, I almost feel like it's the opposite. I feel like it's me expecting so much more from the Rams. I expect the Rams to go out there and blow the Cardinals out. That offense should be humming, right? When it goes out there and it doesn't, they just stay at 6 for me. And maybe that's not fair, right? These are fluid. We're going to learn as we go. But that is kind of the way I was looking at the Rams, keeping them at 6. Didn't impress me enough to move me ahead. But at the same time, they did win, and the Bucs lost, the Chiefs lost. So, like, I get your point for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really my only question on your list. The Chiefs, I didn't punish too. Well, I mean, I did drop them, I think, from 2 to 5. You have them from, I believe, 2 to 4. The Rams I bumped up from last week. The Bills I bumped down. We're in agreement 7 to 9. Obviously, the surprising one being the Jacksonville Jaguars in at 9. It's just, again, it is a fluid list, and it's how you're playing up to this date. And the Jaguars, I mean, come on. Once you get down to that 9-10 area, and then the teams on the fringe, it's hard. Like, you can't really find. Before, it would have been what? The Raiders. Well, they're 0-3. It would have been the Saints. Well, they're now 1-2. It would, it could be the Broncos. They're 2-1, but my God, they've looked so bad. The Niners are now 1-2, and my God, they looked so bad. So you can't really argue for any team to really be ahead of Jacksonville on this list right now.
What about the Browns?
Nah, I'm sorry, dude. I can't. Jacoby Brissett, I can't.
I saw Phil
a few more weeks, I'll see. And maybe that's wrong by me, because you could argue that the Browns have a better roster surrounding, the quarterback than Jacksonville does. And not that Trevor Lawrence has proven anything, but Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson seem to have a connection right now. Yeah. The only other team higher up before we get to the 10 spot is, you have the Bucs at 3. I have them at 6. And you mentioned their defense. And listen, man, I'm not arguing with you at all about that defense. We talked about it Monday night. They are, if not the best defense in the league, a top 2, top 3 unit at the moment, probably yet to peak so early on in the year, right? My thing is, they played the Packers. So while they still have Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, yes, we know what the Packers' skill position players and their weapons are on the outside. So holding them to 14 doesn't blow me away, even though it's Aaron Rodgers, Romeo Dubes or
Yeah.
Christian Watson missed the game, or 38-year-old Randall Cobb. Like I'm not worried about that. And then offensively, we're just sitting here expecting everything to be okay. Well, it's Tom.
That's fair.
Well, Evans is coming back, and we're just expecting things to go back to normal. And, guys, Bruce Arians isn't there anymore. It is Todd Bowles' team, and Todd Bowles is the defensive mind. There is no more offensive-minded head coach and offense-first mentality on this team. And from what I've seen, weapons or not, Tom Brady has not looked like Tom Brady. And I've learned enough over the last decade of my life to never, ever bet against Tom Brady and to never believe that Father Time or that cliff is coming up. But if there was ever a time to point and say, this is it, it looks like right now. I'm not just talking about last week. I'm not talking about minus Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Julio Jones. Weeks 1 through 3. Week 1, he had everybody. They scored 19 points. They scored 1 touchdown. Scotty, in 3 weeks, they have more penalties than they have more turnovers, than they do touchdowns. That is a problem. That is not just a week 3 problem. That is a full course of the first 3 weeks of the season problem.
I don't know if everything
just gets better.
The only thing I would combat with that is that are they playing 3 top 10 defenses in the first 3 weeks? Cowboys ? They look like a top 10 defense so far. They just played the Bucks. They just played the Packers. That's a top 10 defense. I think we would agree. And then week 2, the Saints, another top 10 defense. So I get it. I do get it. I get what you're saying. They're struggling mightily on offense, but these are great defenses that
you
they're
can
playing
argue
against
that,
great
but
pass rushes.
Sure, you can argue that, but then I can throw back at you that Minnesota, who you don't have in your top 10 and who everyone's arguing against, beat up on that Packers defense in week 1. You just watched Carolina and company win a game versus that Saints defense this past week. So, it's for sure it's an argument. I'm just saying I think there's more there than just everything's going to be okay. That's my only thing with the Bucs.
I think that's fair.
At number 10, this is the last part of the power rankings we'll discuss. You have the Chargers, I had the Vikings. I had the Chargers at first, but I just couldn't in my heart be like, you know what? A 1-2 team battling all these. Here's the thing. It's not only what have you done this past week and in previous weeks, it's also what am I kind of projecting you to do in the next week. The Chargers are beat up, man. Like Herbert's ribs and the cartilage injury isn't just going to go away. Keenan Allen walked off with a trainer and left practice early again today. They lost Rashawn Slater. They lost Jalen Guyton. Derwin James or J.C. Jackson has not responded to that surgery the way they thought he would on the outside. So the Chargers, to me, at 1-2, I just couldn't. I'm not arguing against it. I just couldn't put them against a 2-1 Vikings team who, before the Eagles smacked them across the face, everyone anointed the NFC North champs. So I'll keep the Vikings in the conversation longer than I will the Chargers right now.
That's fair. I don't know. I've just been thoroughly unimpressed by the Vikings. I mean, even the win against the Lions, it was just kind of unimpressive. You're playing at home. You give it. Of course, they come back and they win that game, but it's almost like the Lions just threw that away. I mean, I don't know. I just haven't been thoroughly impressed with the Vikings the last 2 weeks, and that's more or less where it's at. But you could also say the same thing about Chargers. It's just where I believe the Chargers are at. I haven't lost faith yet, but it is getting close. And you are right. The injuries are piling up. Eckler's not performing up to his standard. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with the Chargers, and they play the Texans this week. We'll see how they beat them, because even depending if they win, they should win that game. Depending how they win will determine if they're still in that top 10. But I think you mentioned something earlier in the show, and it's like when you get down to 10, you're going to be picking out flaws about these teams, right? Like there's going to be something wrong with them. Yeah. It's really gray down there, because you're right. Like even after week 2, I'm still thinking like, are the Raiders like a top 10 team? You know what I mean? Like they have so much talent, but like they're not. And I may be getting like miraged by the Chargers as well, which we'll find out soon enough.
Mason says Jameis Winston is also not showing up to. I don't know the full details, Mason, but from my understanding, well, they're in London, and with Jameis's injury, I don't think he made the trip.
Interesting.
He hasn't been cited. So I don't think he's not showing up. I think he's injured. He's not practicing.
It's not coming.
And they flew to London earlier in the week, and I don't think if they're not expecting him to play with that, it's a rib injury with him, right? So I don't think they were like, ribs. You know what, let's fly him out to London. The UK at the moment. So I don't think it's Jameis bailing on practice. I just don't think he's in their game plan this week. But
Jameis the bad teammate.
Yeah, exactly. With that being said, let's move on to the final part of this episode, Scotty, and that is tonight's Thursday night football matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the Cincinnati Bengals. Dolphins come in as one of the final two undefeated teams, 3-0 into Cincinnati. They start off sluggish, 0-2 start, beat up on the Jets this past week. They're 1-2 heading into tonight. What's your opening thought process, opening statement on this kind of game? You have Tua versus Joe Burrow. You have two highly touted, very talented receiving cores. You have Joe Mick, but like both defensive sides have showed up but have some injuries. What's your thought process heading in this one? I think the line's sitting at 4 or 3.5 right now.
3.5 the last time I checked, at least going the Bengals way, but This feels like my last hoorah with the Bengals. Like if y'all can't get this one for me, primetime football, you got the all white unis on, the white the white and black stripes, right? Like if you can't get this dub, then you're not a real team this year, right? And it's nothing to I feel like it's like the shit on Miami episode for me. It's not like that. I promise you. Like I do like what Miami has done, and They've gotten a bunch of huge wins this season, and they very well could win this game, right? Like Tua is supposed to play, Jalen Waddle is supposed to play. They have all of their weapons there, right? I think this is the time. You are at home, Bengals. You are on prime time. You are on national television. Let's go out there and let's get this turned around. Let's turn this the right way. I think that's what it is for me. It's my last chance of this season where I take the Bengals against a good team.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is for me. I'm going out on a limb here. I'm trusting Joey B. He let me down week 2, man. That really was like a knife in the back, my brother. Like that one hurt because like I'm just like like this is gonna be fun today. I felt like I was like watching like a second team of mine like go and like play the Cowboys that day. And it ended that day as far as that relationship with me and the Bengals. But I'm trying to build it back up now. And I am going to ride with the Bengals in this game. But it just feels like it's time to put up or shut up, right? Joey B, you're talking about last week before the Jets. Everything's all right. Relax. We're relaxed now. You got the W against the New York Jets.
Exactly.
Go out here and get a W against a real team. Show us that you are really relaxed and that you are back this year. There was just a little rust in the first couple weeks, right?
That's my one major concern, right? And I'm not arguing against the fact that Joe Burrow has looked a lot better over the last week or two than he did coming in against Pittsburgh and against Dallas. I'm not arguing that the offensive line has looked a little better, et cetera.
Yeah.
All that it comes down to is that everyone was down on the Bengals heading into week 3. Oh my God, stick a fork in them. Oh my God. Maybe that it was just a one-season fluke heading to the Super Bowl. Now they beat up on the New York Jets, and now all is fine. Not by you. I'm just talking about in general. All is welcome back, and they're favorites. It makes zero. You beat the New York Jets.
Yeah.
That's it. You've proven
me picking them feels like an underdog pick. It doesn't feel like they're supposed to win.
You've proved nothing. And so that's my first part. Are the Bengals back, or did the Bengals just beat the Jets? Tonight's a big barometer for that. The other side, as weird as this little MFer is, as dirty, like him coming out and saying like when he was in the booth, sometimes you want to shower for 4 or 5 days before getting like Mike McDaniel is the dorkiest little weirdo type of head coach you could ever picture. He's an effing assassin. Yeah. Like this dude is so technically and football smart and sound and will just exploit matchups and mismatches all across the board. You want to run 3 linebackers out in the field. I'm going to run 2 running backs, and I'm going to spread all 5 out wide, and I'm going to get Tyreek Hill. I'm going to get Jalen Waddle lined up on a linebacker in the slot, whatever way I want it. He's done it all 3 weeks, man. And then you go back to last week. Miami showed you they can beat you different ways. Obviously, the offensive explosion in week 2 against Baltimore. And then last week, like, dude, the fact, I get it. I get your point. It was probably more so Buffalo losing that game than anything else. But my point is, if you tell us pregame, Josh Allen's going to throw for 400 yards, the Buffalo Bills are going to run over 90 offensive plays, and the time of possession is going to be over 90% in Buffalo's pointed Buffalo's way. Who wins the game?
Yeah.
Buffalo. Dude, the Bills defense held them under 20.
Yeah.
Did they drive up and down the field? Sure, but at the end of the day, the Bills couldn't find the end zone and couldn't score enough points.
Yeah.
So, like, while I know how Joey B can be, and I know Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon and so forth, I know what this offense can be. Do we think they're better than the Bills' offense? Probably overall not. Talent and names. Yeah, there's more names, but
skill players. Yeah,
we trust Josh Allen and that offense to score more than probably the Bengals up to this point.
Yeah.
So Miami has shown you what they could do offensively with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and these 3 running backs and Gesicki and freaking River Crawcraft, whatever the hell his name is, that scored all 3 weeks so far, or 2 of the 3 weeks so far. They've shown you they can beat you that way. And I don't know if Xavier Howard's playing yet. He was questionable. There's a couple pieces that are questionable defensively for Miami, but they're just solid on both sides. So part of me wants to say, the Bengals show out tonight. I just think Miami's more for real than that, man. And the fact that they're 4-point dogs, the fact that they are plus like 160 on the money line, 165 on the money line, that's crazy to me. There's just too much talent, too much speed. I've never been so confident in freaking Tua in my life. I think Miami gets the win tonight.
It's interesting. I do think it's going to be a close game, and I can't really argue against what you've said about the Dolphins. They've been the more impressive team for sure, but at the same time, we do know what the Bengals' ceiling is. And that is a Super Bowl trip, an AFC champion. And I can't let that escape my mind. I know it's a new season. We're getting into a new territory here, but it just feels like we're waiting for a Jamar Chase explosion. We're waiting for a Joe Mixon explosion. We're waiting for a T. Higgins explosion. Like, we just haven't had it all season. And it just feels like every week could be that explosion like that. I can't help but feel like that.
Reversely, though, can I ask you, I know what Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle did week 2 in that 21-point comeback, but outside of having to come back in the fourth quarter, Tyreek Hill has been silent 2 out of the 3 weeks at Miami.
Yeah,
we know the conversation that's going on about him and Eli Apple. I can't here real quick. DraftKings just tweeted out 10 minutes ago. One bettor put $660.67 on the Eagles to be the last undefeated team this season. If the Dolphins lose tonight, this bet will pay out $10,000. So whatever Eagles fan did that, whoever put that on the books tonight, I hope you're right, but I hope you're wrong. Just not tonight. Hopefully both win. Okay.
Don't know what that means. But...
We got big heads. Yeah.
Thank you.
And you don't have a profile picture, so thank you for tuning in and commenting. Hope you subscribe to the channel. We welcome everybody and all trolls. However, Scotty, so you're going with the Bengals. I'm going with the Dolphins. Best bet, parlay, whatever you got for me. What do you got tonight?
Yes, sir. So I got 3 tails of the tape, I guess you could say. So I got a Higgins game, I got a Chase game, and I got a Miami game. So my Miami game I have at plus 560. I have a Hill touchdown. I have Gesicki for just 5 yards, 5+ yards. 225 plus yards. Miami plus 3.5 and Waddle 55 plus receiving yards. The Waddle one is the one I'm worried about. I just hope he doesn't tweak that groin and then end up having to sit out the rest of the game. But nonetheless, that's my Miami go. That's plus 560. And then I'll give you my Chase go here. So I had it at plus 520. Chase TD, Joe Burrow over 255, Chase plus 70, Tyreek Hill plus 60, and Tua 200 plus passing yards.
So I have to ask you, I know you're leaning Bengals, but we all know what the juice is leaning. We all know there's a 7-point early payout on DraftKings. So I have to ask which way you went on this. If you did it, did you opt in?
Oh, I definitely opted in. And I do have faith that the Dolphins are going to go up 7 in this game. I do think that if they get the ball first, there's a good chance they could score first on that possession.
Man.
Yeah, give it to me, and then I'm going to go and take that and throw it down on Bengals money line to come back. Because then Dolphins should be favored at that point, maybe, just with how close the line is. So I'm hoping it plays out perfectly like that. That's what I'm cheering for.
So I have the Dolphins early payout as well. Then I have one. It's just plus 100 if you want to lay it. I have Burrow 255 plus and Tua 225 plus. Then this one was weird. I don't know if DraftKings gave me a little glitch or what, but I had both of those passing numbers mixed in with this parlay, and it was at plus 600. And I exited out of both passing numbers, and they were like minus 190 and minus 230. So the odds should have been greater than 75, but they only went down to plus 525. So for at plus 525, I have Jalen Waddle 65 plus yards, Jamar Chase 80 plus yards, and Tyreek Hill 80 plus yards. That's it. So I don't know if there was a glitch in whatever happened, me taking out those passers, but that's all. And then my final one, I have Jamar Chase 60 yards, Jalen Waddle 55 yards, Tyreek Hill 60 yards, and a Tyreek Hill anytime touchdown at plus 531 boosted. So that's all my plays for tonight. All your plays for tonight.
I got one question for you. I got one question for you before we get out of here. If you could rank these 4 receivers, T. Higgins, Waddle, Hill, Chase, how would you rank them?
I would put Tyreek Hill 1.
I'm with you.
Jamar Chase 2.
Yeah. This is where it gets interesting, though. Waddle or Higgins? Because Higgins is supremely underrated.
You know what? He is, but I'm still going to go with Jalen Waddle.
I feel more dynamic.
Higgins has the size, and he can do it all in the field, but especially with Waddle being across from the cheetah, it's opened up everything for Jalen Waddle. It's kind of opened my eyes up to what kind of receiver he is. And Jalen Waddle can do a lot of different things. He's not just a speed option, end around kind of guy. He can get into the short, intermediate, and stretch the field. So I'll go Hill, Chase, Waddle, Higgins.
That's exactly what
I'll go Tyler Boyd 5.
I love T. Higgins, man. I do. I really feel like he's one of the most slept on receivers in the league, but I can't take him over Waddle in this case. But I would agree on Boyd as well, number 5.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to wrap up this Thursday edition of NFL Turf Talk live here on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channel. If you're new to the channel, head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Hit that follow button. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, check out the link tree in our bio to take it to every social media platform we are available on. We're also on Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your sports podcast or content from. We are all over the place. We also have a TeePublic site, so check out the DSM merch on the TeePublic site as well. For myself, you can find me on Twitter @DylanJD98. Check out my man Scotty on Twitter @ScottyDrowned. Have a great rest of your Thursday night and enjoy your weekend. See you guys on Sunday.
Peace.
One-on-one.